Welcome to the Nagual Zone. My name is Anaam. A few months ago, I did a video called The Fifth Enemy. Links coming up. And in there, a user called Annie, friend of mine, asked this question. And go ahead, it's a long comment, so go ahead and read it over there. She says, is delusion about the self, is self-image a part of the foreign installation, or is it different from the foreign installation? So she's asking, is delusion about the self, is self-image a part of the foreign installation, or is it different from the foreign installation? Then she goes on to comment about her correct understanding of what the foreign installation is. She goes on to say that it's an internalization of the paradigms, schooling, inculcations, indoctrinations of things that are external to us. Now, for that reason, a foreign installation, because human beings' instinct has been genetically bred out of them. The average man's world, the average man literally depends on the machine mind to tell it what to do, to give it a name, to put clothes on it. That's when the average man procreates and another average person is born. A name is given, a name tag. That tag becomes not just a tag, but their entire identity from that moment on. Who are you? My name is Anaam. That's the answer. The next question, guess what it is for people? What do you do? So what's your name tag and what's your function? Now, when animals meet each other, when two foxes meet each other in the garden, they don't interact that way. Instinct, the natural knowledge that they have, which is in their body, creates a very different level of communication, vastly superior level of communication within them. So you could say that the foreign installation dumbs down a perfectly smart creature called the human being. She says self-delusion, which I think for the average human is really synonymous with self-image, seems to be something we ourselves create. Yes, so there's a few fine lines here to understand. You know, the foreign installation, for all practical purposes, a human cannot do without it now. It's as if, okay, imagine a scenario where this is coming sooner than you think. Sooner than you think. You think Bill Gates and the big haha about Bill Gates. When Elon Musk comes into play, he's a pawn of the predator, just as Bill Gates is. When he comes into play with his satellites and his transhuman agenda, plugging your brain directly to a vast AI network, he will make Bill Gates look like a little harmless squirrel. Bill Gates and his poxy little vaccines. That's a different topic altogether. However, just imagine that the average man has now, for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, thousands of years, been used to physically getting plugged in through the chip implanted in their brain as soon as they're born. Imagine after that long the entire human race existing like that. If someone comes along and says, did you know that in your natural state you did not need these chips and implants, and you did not need this global AI that you're connected to? Those people who hear that, they will say, but that's impossible. It would be impossible to live without our chips and our, we have to be jacked in. It's the same thing. To you, it is impossible. you may agree and nod your head, yes, yes, what Anaam is saying is true, yes, yes. No, you really don't get it. For all practical purposes, to you, it is impossible to function on instinct. It's impossible. You don't know how to do it. Don't know how to do it. You know why? Because your mind would go crazy. Your mind would go crazy because it wouldn't understand anything. It wouldn't be able, you literally wouldn't be able to wrap your head around your existence anymore. Right? So, so for all practical purposes, the average human cannot survive without the machine mind anymore, which is how, if I was a predator and I wanted to have an endless supply of victims of prey, this is exactly what I would do. I would get them dependent on my feed. I would get them dependent on me. What happens in a farm? The animals in the farm are completely dependent on the farmer. They're not dependent on nature. They're dependent on the farmer. So, the machine mind and the foreign installation, for all practical purposes, are one and the same thing. If there was no predator, we would have a foreign installation, but it would be minuscule compared to our instinctual knowledge that we are born with and that would grow with us through experiencing life without the interference of a predator, and it would grow organically and naturally. And that kind of human is a very, very vastly different human and a vastly superior human to you and me. The foreign installation is needed. Till a certain age, some level of external input must happen. We need to be taught, right? That's just the way it is. But for the human race, as far as the human race is concerned, the foreign installation and the machine mind, which is a strategic control mechanism implanted into you, which you think is you, for all practical purposes, they are one and the same. So that brings us to self-delusion, because the machine mind is going to give you your self-image. Where do you form your self-image? You form your self-image in these indoctrination camps, which for some weird reason are called schools. You know what schools? Schools of fish. Fish, when they swim together, are called schools of fish. Schooling has got nothing to do with education. It's got everything to do with herding together. A school of humans, a school of children, and a school of fish. Right? You start forming your self-image well before school, but mainly in school. The herd tells you what your boundaries are and what you should think of as yourself. And the herd has sheepdogs called teachers, and you have your own personal sheepdogs called parents. In the modern society, parenthood is dead. There's no parenting going on. For vast amounts of human beings, there's no parenting going on. If you're lucky, you'll have a single mom. If you're lucky, if you're fortunate. And if you're really extra lucky, then you'll have both parents actually available to you, right? The state of decay is too far gone now in civilization, Western white civilization as it exists today. So self-image comes from, you already can see how your self-image comes from an utterly twisted and insane environment, which is meant for one thing and one thing alone, to keep you identified as prey, to keep you behaving as prey throughout your life. Okay. She says, what is personal history? Is it connected to the foreign installation, delusion of the self, or am I way off? Personal history. Any clarification, insight would be much appreciated. What is personal history? Personal history is what you think of as you so far in your life. So when you look at yourself and you go, this is my personal history, that's your mind assessing its memories. That's all it is. That's all you've got, memories and experiences that have got internalized. And that becomes your personal history, right? And you think that is you. My personal history. You'd be amazed to find how predictable your personal history is and how completely copy-paste your personal history is to millions and millions and millions of human beings who have gone on before you, who are still existing and who are yet to come. Consider it like this. I own a farm and I have 100 sheep. How different is the personal history of each of those sheep going to be? Not very different, right? All those sheep have similar looking pens. They get the same food. They get the same food at the same time. They have exactly the same schedule, all of them. Their personal history is very predictable because I set it. They don't set it, I set it. And if they were let loose and I was not around, they would still behave in exactly the same way because they've been indoctrinated. Their self-image will not allow them to behave in any other way. You see, that's why I can leave my farm and go, knowing that those sheep ain't going anywhere. In case one of them gets any funny ideas, I've got an electrified fence. In the Toltec terms, it's the firewall of your mind. You know what the firewall of your mind is? It's called self-importance. Self-importance. The firewall of your mind. So, self-image and personal history are tied in together in this way. Your personal history, you may hate to hear it, but it's utterly predictable and it is completely copy-paste to millions of others. Now those sheep on my farm, for example, let's go back to my farm. Those sheep, no matter how many generations of those sheep pass by, barring, within the world of those sheep, those sheep will be convinced, oh no, I am very different. I am unique. I have my wool is different than your wool. My wool is warmer than your wool. Look how the farmer favors me. I am the star of all you sheep. I am the favored one. Oh, you weak sheep, I am powerful. But you're just a copy-paste version of the next person. Even though to you, it seems like you are this unique, amazing entity. Now, all this is to help you understand that personal history is really nothing to be proud of, nothing to cling to. You're better off without it. Now someone may say, okay, sold, Anaam, personal history is bullshit. How do I let it go? It's not bullshit. It makes you. But what you have to do is you have to learn to integrate it so that that burden of all that psychological time that you're carrying around and you think of and you take pride in being you. I am me because I went to Cambridge. I have done triple PhDs. I know so much. So you have a lot of just bullshitters out there. Personal history, unless you can learn to look at it very, very coldly in a calculated manner and see that it may give you It is the sum total of your experiences so far, but it is not you. It's not you. It's not you, the you that is eternal and unchanging. It's not that. You see, personal history comes and goes, but there is something in you that does not come and go. It is your consciousness, your awareness. That does not come and go. It is always there, simply that your attention isn't on it as much as it should be. So here's a way to start. You don't want to disconnect with your personal history, because there's no point in that. You want to integrate it so that it works for you, rather than give you a false sense of grandeur about, oh, personal history. Back in the war days, things were this and that. And, people just, or in the 80s, and, personal history, which is fine. Knock yourself out, get drunk on it, who cares? But if you want to actually integrate all of that into yourself, you're going to have to realize what it feels like viscerally. What does it feel like to be here in this moment right now? And if you're fully plugged in into this moment, if you're fully aware of this moment, what happens to your identity? What happens to your personal history? It disappears. At the very least, it becomes extremely irrelevant, because this moment is what's always happening. That history is a fantasy you carry around to make you feel better about yourself, to make you feel a little bit more worthy, to make you feel a little bit more, I am worth something. I must be important because I've lived out all these. I have so much personal history. I must be important. But you know what? Nature doesn't recognize all of that, and neither does death. Death is not going to judge you by the grandeur of your personal history. Death is going to judge you by how present you have been whilst living out your life. So absolutely right. Self-image, personal history, they're all bound together. They are slightly different aspects of the same force, same pull. And for the Toltec warrior, that pull, that force is no longer valid. It no longer qualifies as a valid thing to carry around. So erasing personal history, you can't really erase anything, but sort of walking away from it, as it were, emotionally walking away from it, is an act that must happen in the Toltec warrior's life before they can call themselves a warrior. You see what I mean? You've got to understand that personal history in the Toltec warrior's life no longer holds any validity. It is just dead weight. Take the good things, alter your memories to remember advantageous events in your life. Recapitulate everything else as much as you can and bring all the energy back into your body. And become someone who is present here without having a huge burden, a huge rucksack of personal history that they're carrying around with them all the time. You're gonna have to be lighter than that. You're gonna have to let go of that stuff that's gonna drown you. It's too heavy. And the more you live, the more personal history you gain, and the more problems the more rocks you've got in that rucksack. That's how it works. I have struggled a little bit to explain this concept in this video, I feel. Let me know if you feel I was just rambling, or did any of it even make any sense. Let me know what you think about personal history. What are your thoughts about personal history and self-image, self-delusion, foreign installation, the machine mind, right? And if you have any questions about this where you feel I can clarify it further, absolutely let me know. Annie, thank you for asking this question. You're a wonderful, wonderful woman, and I love you very much. You're amazing. Thank you all. Walk in freedom. Bye for now.